What be a pirate's favorite droid? I realize that a lot of you want me to say R2D2. However, pirates all like different things, so it's kind of a dumb question to begin with. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Zareth Prevails. Today we're going to talk about Relic 6 and the kind of strange stigma that is held about Relic 6 in this game. A lot of people tend to think that Relic 6 is not a worthy destination for a character to end up on unless it's a requirement, so we're going to look at that, and maybe there are some reasons to have Relic 6 on different characters. Maybe not. Maybe we're all just deluded. Speaking of deluded, my patrons are not deluded. You guys are amazing. You're not diluted either. You're probably not solution. So you guys are amazing though. Thank you so much for all of your support. And guys, just a reminder that if you want to subscribe to this channel, just hit that subscribe button. Easy as that. Same with the like button. Do it, guys. Mount the algorithm. You don't even have to ask. The algorithm is there for the mounting. Let's go to the game, guys. I feel like that's going to be the answer today because it takes too long to make slides sometimes, and sometimes we just have to not do slides. Whoa, we're in the game. Madness. How'd we get in the game? This is crazy. Why am I pretending like I'm surprised that I'm in the game? Alright, so first off, guys, it's an interesting thing because in a lot of ways, I think that our player community, whatever, has been directly impacted by datacrons in the sense that people only see Relic 5 and Relic 7 as relevant, and probably Relic 3 as well. Because when you get to 5, you can access all of the stats that are on a datacron. When you get to 7, you can access your character-specific thing, the ability for level 9 on some of the datacrons, and otherwise Relic 6 is kind of just left out as a viable option. And so I have these characters up top just as a stat gain reference, and I know that the different archetypes kind of control how much of each stat you gain, and so this is not going to be a perfect comparison, but it's just it's a thing to note. There's a lot of different things that go into your decisions on where to leave a character at relics, and 6 usually, I get a lot of crap because I tend to, during my GAC matches, I tend to win, if you want to call it winning, the Relic 6 battle. I always have more Relic 6s than my opponent. And usually it's because my opponents have Relic 7 or higher. They don't have anything below that, but even the accounts that are about my same roster size, I have way more Relic 6s because 7 is held to be the most powerful option. And don't get me wrong, most characters, maybe all characters, are better at 7 than they are at 6. So I'm not saying that 6 is just like, oh, it's better for some reason. I'm not saying that, but I think that there's some viable reasons to put them to 6. Now, the first one, and the most excusable, certainly, that I think most people can get behind, are the fact that requirements are sometimes they seem arbitrary by CG. Sometimes I have Aura seeing here at 6 because even though she does a lot of damage and would probably benefit from Relic 7 or 8, I don't use her enough to justify that for damage reasons, and her leadership is really what gets her by. You can have her at really low relics and still have a pretty awesome leadership for bounty hunters. Greedo is another one that I was going to get him to higher relics for the crate raid, but now the crate raid is about to go the way of the dinosaur, and that's too bad on a lot of different parts. Greedo kind of looks like a dinosaur, and I guess his relic levels are going to go that direction as well. So that's one of the reasons why Relic 6, I mean, I think that's something we can all probably agree on that's a reasonable way to get to Relic 6. Now, before we get to further things, guys, I do want to point out that once you get to Relic 5, so I have Nebbit here, he's probably required at 4, is my guess. I don't have much use for Jawas at this point. I love that they redid the art for these guys, and I still just cannot tell them apart. I guess I should actually put some effort into that. But what I want to point out, though, is he's my only Relic 4 on this account, in fact. And he goes, when you go from 4 to 5, that's the end of your +5 mastery gains for Relic levels. So you go from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, etc. You get +5 each time. You also get a certain amount of other stats. Of course, that's how relics work. We all know this, but this is the cutoff, guys. You go from 20 to 25, and this is also the first level that it costs the fancy kind of signal data. All right. Once you go from Relic 5, however, guys, then you start getting a higher stat gain and you get a bigger mastery boost. And mastery is just I mean, the real dumbed down way is every character has a different archetype. There's 9 different archetypes based on if they're an attacker or if they're support, etc. But you have all these archetypes, and the mastery level that you see here is you get certain stats boosted by how much mastery you have. That's how you're going to gain those, you get extra stats based on your mastery. And so you go from +5 each time to, from 5 to 6, you start the +10 trek. You also start getting more significant stat boosts. So you go from 5 to 6. Second Sister, as an attacker, is going to get somewhere around 500 extra offense, which is non-negligible. Going from 6 to 7, again, you have the +5 mastery boost, another +10 to your fancy signal data, and then of course you get the good offense boost again. But it's very similar. Going from 5 to 6 and 6 to 7, the stat boost is very similar. Obviously, if you go from 5 to 7, it's going to be double or thereabouts. But for the most part, that's what you're getting. Is going from 6 to 7. It is about the same as from 5 to 6. It just costs more to go to 7, and then so once you get to 7, that's kind of the cutoff. It becomes prohibitively expensive, and she's a support, so you can see going from 7 to 8, most characters are going to gain way more damage than this, but because they just don't have, she's a support, she's not getting as much damage. So obviously these examples aren't perfect. Going from 7 to 8, you get another 15 mastery instead of 10 like the other 2 relic levels, but then you also have to pay for the arrow magnifiers and the little lightsaber looking things that aren't lightsabers. And then the thing, what's interesting to me is when you go from 8 to 9, you get way bigger stat boosts on a lot of levels, but your damage, in fact, does not increase a terrible amount, like a disproportionately small amount compared to how crazy expensive it is to go from 8 to 9. But the interesting thing to me is this goes down in the amount of mastery gained here. You got +15 from 7 to 8. From 8 to 9, you get +10 again. And so going from 8 to 9, you're gaining the same amount of mastery as you did from 5 to 6. And whereas I'm not saying that, so you may as well just be Relic 6 because 6 is the new 9. I mean, you guys all love gluing those two numbers together, of course, but your mastery increase is when you go from 5 to 6, your mastery gain is a substantial amount that does not really taper off compared to the later relics as well. And so you're getting good stat gains and everything, and you're boosting your character. And a lot of times, what does Relic 7 really do for you that 6 doesn't? 7 gives you access to Datacron mastery stuff, I guess. 7 that was the original max relic level, and otherwise I don't see what 7 unless it's a requirement or something, that 7 doesn't unlock more doors than 6 does unless you're in Rise of the Empire, which is the next thing that I want to point out here. One reason to get Relic 6 instead of staying at 5. Bad Batch are all required at 5. Yoda, I think, is required at 5 somewhere. Cara Dune isn't required to have relics. She needs to I think she unlocks Bando, but she certainly doesn't need relics for that mission. But I did this kind of as a labor of love for the community. I was trying to find a way to beat all the relic or the phase 2 missions in territory battles, and so these are all teams that work pretty nicely there. And so you see that Omega isn't included here because I took Omega off and added Jedi Master Kenobi, and this is one of the teams that we used, so then we could use Cat with Rey to take out one of the really tough Phase 2 teams, because there's a lot of really tough Phase 2 missions. Similarly, I wanted a better Jedi for Baraka, and so Hoda went to Relic 6, and then Cara Dune is part of those really tough Phase 2 neutral missions, where if you put enough potency on her, she just spams she's with Sana as well. I'm surprised Sana isn't only Relic 6. She was 6 for a long time. Maybe I boosted her for some reason unbeknownst to me, but she with Cara Dune just keeps letting Cara Dune reset her cooldowns, and she just spams an AoE that stuns the Imperial troopers just every time. It's one of the most fun parts of. It's one of the most fun parts. Pun farts. Wow. Ugh, that turned gross. Of Rise of the Empire. So this is something that I think is also pretty excusable for Relic 6, because I don't need Bad Batch. Otherwise, they don't do a lot of extra damage when they get higher relics. I mean, they turn more survivable. They could do better stuff, but a lot of their stuff is based off of percent health damage, a lot of different things like that Relic 5 would be fine. 6 is fine, though, for something like Rise of the Empire. Now, the one that is maybe less excusable by a lot of you are my different projects that I've been working on and trying to get a boost on. So Rex, I don't really remember why I got him to 6. Maybe I realized that I didn't need him as a requirement at 6 or at 7 for Lord Vader. I know that some people have thought that in the past erroneously, but you want him 5 to access all of the relic stat, or all of the Datacron stats. 6 is kind of weird because he's not a stat guy anyways, he's a mechanics guy. He doesn't need a ton of stats to succeed, but the 6 is fine for him, honestly. Kanan is one of my more recent Relic 6s because I want to get my Phoenix to a point where they can destroy people, and so I'm guessing 6 is just a temporary stop. He'll probably get more than that eventually, but he's also the ship's okay, and he's 1/3 of of the pilots of that ship, so it's not like a one relic boost is really going to give him the ship a huge boost, but he is a pretty key component to the Phoenix team, and it'll be a little bit sad if, in fact, CG was being truthful when they said Kanan is going to be a really important part of the Galactic Legend Leia team, because I think that he would be more fun on a Phoenix team, frankly, with Commander Rex. That seems to make, that makes a lot of sense to me. But yeah, Relic 6 on him, I think that's fine, honestly. Varys is one that she's not in the center of things anymore. She used to be so central to a lot of plans in the meta. Oh man, just throw her on this team and that team will never die, kind of thing. And the fact is, she needs as many stats as she can get. Sometimes I'm just not willing to get a character to Relic 7 because the expense from going to Relic 6 is not that bad. I mean, it's the same as this, except it only costs 25 of the fancy signal data, and it doesn't cost Zinbiddle, so it costs the same amount as going from 6 to 7, except it costs the same amount but cheaper. And what we're really looking for her isn't to get an arbitrary Relic 7 unless she gets a Datacron that needs it or something, but otherwise at Relic 7 or Relic 6 she still got a pretty nice chunk of health, which is really what you're looking for her health and a nice boost to her armor. Those two things are non-negligible, and in my opinion, going from 5 to 6 and then stopping, that's where the cheap stuff, you're getting a nice kick to your, boost to your mastery and you're getting a nice boost to your health without paying the premium of going all the way to 7, because she's not required anywhere. I may as well just get a nice boost and stay a little cheap on a character who is no longer central, but still in some cases is very important, and you want her to survive as long as possible. Geo Spy is another one that was more central. The fleet just keeps getting pushed back, but the ship does do a lot of damage, so it's nice to have relics on him. Obviously, putting 6 emods on him would be nice as well, but then he also gets this really nice damage boost and everything, and this is one that I definitely, at some point I was like, man, I'm gonna get Spy up to Relic 8. That'll be great, because of the ship, and because he does really well, but Geos are also just kind of on the outskirts, and I don't use Spy in squads for GAC or Territory Wars very often. I know that Poggle has a decent Omicron, and that would maybe help prioritize him, and I know that Relic 7 is required for Geos in Rise of the Empire for territory battles, so I'm not saying that he would be a terrible candidate for more relics, but he's on the back burner, and we kind of just dropped him. First Order Special Forces TIE Pilot, also known as Alphabet Soup. I think that's what people call him. I don't actually know. But he used to be, at Relic 6, there was a certain speed threshold for his ship that I don't use the fleet anymore. So obviously, like, I even took the 6E mod off here, and I don't really care, frankly. But he needed to be 6 for a specific speed threshold to get his ship faster than, I think I was trying to counter Executor with it. I don't totally remember, but that 6 served an important role in that fleet for a while. I don't use that counter anymore, obviously, but 6 I think is, I mean, why get him more than that? Why would 7 be good for him, other than your ship gets a little bit of a boost? So let's look very quickly at these other ones, just for fun. Droideka, yes, my modding it's kind of gross right now, but he gets that nice damage boost. This came from, at some point we thought that Droideka, there was this really cool counter that included Droideka, and I was all excited. I'm like, yes, okay, Relic 8, here we come. And then I ran out of materials, as one does with relics, and then we since learned that it was a bug, and the CG just fixed it, and that counter became unviable. So Relic 6, honestly, fine place for this guy to be. Little extra oomph in damage, and otherwise pretty good. Young Han Solo, I think this is my very most recent one. In fact, when I was doing research for my most recent video for the off-meta counters, this is the one that really helped boost your chances to be able to beat Jedi Master Luke with a dash team. And it's nice because he gets the nice attacker boost for his archetype, and so every time you get extra relic levels on him, obviously it's nice. But then if you start, he ramps his damage so nicely over the course of time that starting with a higher baseline of stats is just going to be nice. I think that eventually I will get him more relics, but don't be too surprised in a couple years if you look at my roster and he's still Relic 6, you'll be like, oh, nice. Another squirrel project where Zareth was like, oh, yes, I'm working on this. Oh, squirrel. I'm gonna go this way instead. Veteran Han is another one that I was putting a relic level on him every month for just a shorter period of time, obviously. Relic 6, he does a lot of cool stuff. His basic it inflicts stagger. His AoE, it does a stun on the target, and then ability block AoE. Really cool stuff. He has a lot of tags with resistance and scoundrel and smuggler. A lot of cool stuff there, and he's got a counterattack. He hits decently hard, and he just tends to not quite make the cut. He's always, oh sure, if I had a sixth character on the squad, I could add him, but he doesn't quite do enough, unfortunately. He does some cool stuff, and so 6, that's about where I'm willing to get him until he proves himself worthy of further investment. But 6 is a good place because here he gets a nice little stat gain, and it makes him more usable against things like, oh yeah, well he's 6, so you can trust him just a little bit more, at least. Kuil, I would love to get to 7. In fact, he's been there for a while. Remember, every stat boost that he gets, and he doesn't get a ton of physical damage, but he does give his entire team based on his own stats. He gives his whole team extra 40% of his health, offense, and potency. Really nice from the relics. You get a nice little boost here, guys. So, you know, the health boost, the damage stuff, it's not bad. Plus, you get to look at his blurg and stuff. Well, obviously the modding, I've been messing with my mods lately. Well, they'll be fixed by GAC. And that's it, guys. Those are my Relic 6s explained. What are your thoughts on Relic 6? Would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Xerath prevails.